Howdy, folks. Brandon over here at AFE Leaks. I wanted to walk you guys through potential for premium clients, essentially, uh, some functionality I've added to the what's called the template well cost app. This app is intended to be more or less something similar to what the should cost models are. You should see it something like an inverse. But instead of putting in a bunch of inputs and what you think costs are, or what the should cost for that well be, this is just influenced by what that operator actually puts in for their wells for their AFEs using our database. So I think this is a more stronger representation of like all the components that the company expects at that point in time, just using our data, and it highlights a bit of like the value you can get from actually getting this full cost breakdown data. I spent the last week essentially adding a bunch more categories, so they can just get more granular on this app and be a little bit more useful. So before, I would lump all casing into just casing. I've now started splitting out production and surface, et cetera, things like that, just to make it a little more informative. And today I'm just going to walk you through that app real fast. And here's kind of the app's drop down. Benchmarks is available to just all basic subscribers and some high level data, but it won't give you any like real well granularity. All the rest of these are premium apps, and the client ones are actually only for API clients, and that's just if you want to filter to a data set and export it to CSV instead of using your API key, that kind of thing. So let's go over to the template well cost app. What we're doing here is you're filtering our data set for the wells that you want, and it's going to take the average components for all those wells. It's failing to load a list because there is no selection yet. I will edit that error at some point, but for example, let's take Permian resources. This is all going to be New Mexico, and look at, call it Bone Springs Third and Wolfcamp A, and then we'll do a AFE date of just January. That's a last date. We'll do January 2025 as this data point. And then over here, you'll get a list of all the wells I'm filtering to. While it does some of that filtering, this is actually the list of the wells that go in. You see a couple of 15,000 foot laterals. If we wanted to just use what their 2-mile lateral assumption is, that's where you get more data. We'll do 9,000 to 11,000 feet here. And that'll just filter down. But while that loads, you can look on there, you get a list of all the wells, and you can actually click to the well information page, and this gives you all the breakdown stuff on that well, my header data, proppant, everything else. The files they have are on their website, or on the New Mexico ECD website or whatever. Surveys that I pull in, this is the total AFE cost, around $9 million. You can click through here and kind of look at those components. So day work, casing are always the two biggest ones, and you'll get the cost breakdown of that well, production, and then GPT and revenue by product here. They don't split out the NGLs on this one, so it's just raw gas that they're reporting. If they do have NGLs, they'll usually split those out. This data is available for the wells where I have CapEx. I'm not trying to be IHS or Inverus or anything like that. This is just to support my work a lot of times, but if I'm already collecting it, I might as well include it on the page, so that's what you're seeing. And once again, on all these AFEs, you can go through and actually look at the AFE visually and kind of look at what the data is and what I'm pulling in. And you have all the raw data here with their company code and company description, so you can build your own schema if you wanted, but this is kind of what is in the database that you can use and what I've standardized myself. And you also export all this to Excel or an Aries 98C file if you wanted to. But anyway, back to the template well cost. We've got our selection here. We've got 18 wells in Wolfcamp A and Bone Springs Third. I did both just because they're usually similar cost, and it gives you a little bit more robust sample set for 2025 only wells. So if you go here and calculate the well cost, what it's going to do is give you that well count, the average pre-drill, drilling, and completion cost as I've defined it. Completion includes facilities and production, but you'll see those production facility stuff is split out in its own code, own code, production facility equipment, and I've further split that out into things like separators and tanks, and et cetera. Pre-drill, you can get a visual here. This is high level total casing cost, day rate, which are always the two biggest costs for the drilling side, and then stimulation is always the biggest cost on the completion side. And then here is that subcomponent split. So like I said earlier, if I'm looking at casing, intermediate, you have the price for the intermediate that I have there. So you can kind of imagine what you can do with this data set once you have it in place. If you want to compare various categories for them versus what Mewborn would have, for example, or what has changed from 2024 AFE dates to 2025 AFE dates, you can use this data to kind of figure that kind of stuff out. I probably need to write a little bit more research on that one. And then you can just copy this table over to whatever, CSV or Excel, whatever you want to do. But yeah, that's kind of the changes I've made to the template well cost app. I had this originally out there. I wanted to improve it a little bit more, and I think this is getting closer to kind of how I imagined it. So as opposed to like a should cost calculator with all these different inputs, you kind of just use what the operators report on their AFEs. And so, yeah, that's what we have here. Thanks, guys, for listening, and you have a good weekend. Cheers.